Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Walking with Jesus. I'm really coming to love this program. I look forward to it every week. I'm Teri Angel. I'm here with Dr. Ruth Anderson beside of me and Lily Ortega joining us from California. So good morning, everybody.
Oh, good morning.
Hi. So I know, Lily, you'd like to take a minute to share this out, and I appreciate that because we have a lot of people, especially in the Spanish community, because this is translated into Spanish. And just to let anyone know that's listening and tuning in, Lily will translate this afterward. We're going to just have a discussion, and then she will put that into Spanish for anyone who wants to be able to understand it a little more fully in their native tongue. So I will also just send it into our group, and then they can put it into wherever they want to put it with their timelines or their groups. Well, maybe if I can find it.
Oh,
Did you find it, Lily?
I did.
Okay. Yeah, Facebook can be a little hard to find sometimes. Okay, there we go. So welcome. Anybody coming in and finding this. And if you do come in, let us know you're here. We'd like to know. And you also can interact with us and let us know what you want to talk about, because we tune in and ask, what should we talk about? What aspect of Jesus' life should we look at? But we also like to have your input. What do you want to know? What would it be like? Let's take ourselves back there to that time when Jesus was walking on earth. And we got such a little picture of what his life was like. There's only a record of like the very beginning and then the last 3 years. So there was a lot of life being lived in between those times. But I know for me, I've had so many questions about what took place during that time. We know the disciples' writings about it, but there had to be like so many people. We hear about the crowds that were there when Jesus was teaching and preaching. So what really happened? And one aspect we've been looking at to discuss today is, were there friendships? Did he have friendships other than those disciples that we know about? So that's what I'd like to explore. It's like, what was that community like during that time? We didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet or even a telephone to pick up and call. So how was that? And how were friendships made? How were they developed? And how did the word spread about this man, Jesus, that came to earth and blessed all of us with his presence? So I've thought about that a lot. It's like, how do people know? And the word obviously spread if there were the large crowds, as we hear about, that were following him. So, Ruth, I think for me, it was like when we were gathering last night with some friends here locally, it's like, was he like listening as people were talking? Was he talking? Was it a time to just relax and just be a human, right?
Did he ever get to let down the teacher persona?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that thought, because I know he also learned, as we do, all humans, we're here, this is a learning experience. So was that a time for him to just observe and to just see what people's questions were, what they wanted to know, or what they were talking about with their daily lives? Did they discuss relationships? Did they discuss their families, or anything that was going on in the world at that time?
Well, I would imagine. And I just imagine there was a lot of laughing. that would take place too. Yeah, I don't think he was, I personally don't think he was always in teacher mode.
He did have a sense of humor from what was recorded about him and things that he said and the experiences. So, yeah, I can imagine just sitting there and enjoying listening to others and laughing with them. You know, if somebody cracked a joke or if they just were sharing a funny story. Yeah, isn't that the beauty of getting together with friends, with family, just sitting around the table and talking about your life and about life in general?
Well, it's also just supporting each other and hearing what's happening, and sometimes it's advice and sometimes it's just listening, and yeah.
Lily, any thoughts on that?
I have a thought. um, yeah, I have,
Hmm. Your sound's cutting in and out.
huh. Maybe I take off my AirPods and see if it's better.
Okay. Yeah, mine do that sometimes too. They cut out.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, but I cannot hear you.
No.
Let's see.
Try one.
I cannot hear. I cannot hear you.
Okay. Can you turn the sound up on your computer?
Maybe that's the
Maybe it needs
reason.
to go off of the
I will
earbuds.
pull back my AirPods and see.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And now I cannot hear.
Technology. You know, Jesus didn't have to deal with that. Can you hear us now, Lily?
I cannot hear.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk and see if I can hear you?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. I can hear you.
Yay.
All right. I took my AirPods. I don't have my AirPods, so I hear you a little bit far, but I still hear you.
Okay.
I'm just going to say to the Spanish speaking audience that what we are going to talk about today. El día de hoy, bueno, bienvenidos al podcast Caminando con Jesús. El día de hoy aquí está con nosotros Teri y Ruth. Y vamos a estar hablando de las amistades de Jesús y cómo era su vida en comunidad. Porque como sabemos, él estaba siempre con mucha gente, alrededor de mucha gente, y quisiéramos saber cómo era su vida en comunidad y cómo era su vida con sus amistades. So yes, as I am talking, I really would like to know that community aspect. I feel it's so important at this time. Well, since 2020 that we were isolated, right? There was like an urge to connect because we felt so alone, and we were able to connect through social media and other means of communication. But you know, I feel there was a shift after 2020 that people started feeling that they wanted to be in touch with others and build communities. So it will be good to explore today about what Jesus did at his time, I think. Entonces, le digo a Terry que ha de ser interesante y a Ruth explorar la vida en comunidad, porque como sabemos desde el 2020 que estuvimos aislados, como que hubo una especie de cambio, creo yo, y una urgencia de conectarnos con los demás y de conectarnos de maneras más profundas. And also to connect in a deeper way, I feel. Like more like that kind of heart to heart connection. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I know, like when we talk to people on the phone or a Zoom call, video call, or whatever, there's just not that personal touch when somebody's right there in your presence and you can feel their energy. So I was just wondering what it would be to be there at the table with Jesus and to feel his energy as well, right? And I know back then, at that time, that was the only way to communicate was face to face. But just to really see the expressions on his face and hear the words out of his mouth. Words, we know the recorded words when he was teaching and preaching, but how was he on that interpersonal level with others? Right? That's the question that I ask. It's like, did he say, "Hi, how are you?" You know, was there like small talk with Jesus? I think that would be something very interesting to be a fly on the wall and to watch that happen and to see how he did interact with others when he wasn't in that teacher
Right.
mode or the the preacher mode or the wanting to get his message across so hugely.
But it's interesting. Wasn't he a brother? Didn't he have?
Mhm.
But when you look at his disciples, not his brothers, and I don't think, although correct me if I'm wrong, weren't they all new to him? So was when that phrase "you can't be a genius" or whatever in your own backyard,
Right.
did the people that he grew up with think, "Oh, that's just cousin Jesus, right?
Mhm.
He's not
Yeah.
such a big deal," because it was all strangers that he.
Right.
So what's that about?
Yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't known as Jesus Christ, the Savior. He was the local boy.
He was the carpenter. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long did it take for them to see that part of him?
Or did they ever?
Did they?
Well,
Yeah.
his mom did.
Well, yeah, she knew from the get-go. And was it told, this kid's special, pay attention to what he has to say because there's something special about him? Or was it just, oh, that's the kid in the neighborhood?
Right. Or was he the weird kid in the neighborhood because he was
Mhm.
talking about these things that other people had no idea?
Right.
Huh.
And talking to his father. You're like, who are you talking to?
Right. He's the kid who talks to himself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But have you ever been around someone who just has that glow? You just know that there's something about them. So was he always like glowing? Was he always like when you sat and talked to him, you just knew that you were in the presence of someone that was on a higher elevation, I guess, and a higher dimension?
Or would they have labeled him as some weird mental
Yeah, on the spectrum.
on the spectrum?
That's just Jesus.
Oh yeah,
Right?
let's just ignore him.
Yeah, he's talking weird talk. We're
Right.
just gonna let him talk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that in Spanish.
Sorry, that was a lot.
Nos está diciendo Terry Ruth que ellas, bueno, sí, nos gustaría saber cómo era la energía de Jesús en esos tiempos, porque en ese tiempo no había internet, entonces toda la comunicación era en persona y nos gustaría saber cómo era Jesús en aquel nivel interpersonal, cuando no estaba en ese modo de maestro, enseñando cómo era en ese nivel interpersonal con cada persona. Y luego también nos preguntamos cómo, bueno, sabemos que tenía discípulos y que tuvo hermanos, entonces también cómo fue esa relación y si él era una persona como magnética que atraía a los demás porque tenía, como se le dice, un glow, como un brillo, entonces eso hacía que la gente se acercara a él, o había gente que lo veía como una persona que tuviera una, por decirlo así, enfermedad mental porque era diferente a los demás. Entonces nos estamos preguntando ese tipo de cosas en este momento.
Thank you, Lily. So thinking about that time that he was there, what was the community like? We know they had a king, they were ruled by a king, and I think there was a lot of fear. That's what I get, is that there was a lot of searching because people weren't, maybe they weren't content with the way things were. But at what point was there a shift? When was there the change that they said, oh, this guy's going to teach us something. He's going to help us. Or were, as children, were they just children? Were they just having fun and playing and not so concerned about the ways of the world? But I know John the Baptist was preaching before he interacted with Jesus, right? From what I understand.
I thought so. The reason I laughed, Terry, was because I was thinking he's outside playing with other kids and he goes, I'm going to tell my dad on you.
Wait till I tell Dad. I love that. I love the thought of him being a kid. We don't think about that usually. We think of Jesus the man, right? But just living the whole existence as a human, yeah, he was going to play. He was going to be lighthearted and maybe have fights with other kids. Who knows? Can you imagine that?
Right. Well, and how was he with animals? I mean, we assume that he was always compassionate and kind, but was he? I mean, did he pull the legs off daddy long legs like the rest of us did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or did he show that compassion?
Right.
And I remember your story, Ruth, about, was it the hamster that you wanted to?
Oh, yeah. My brother had we all had hamsters as kids, and my brother's was sick. My brother's got sick. And I wasn't very old. I think I was like 7. But I remember holding this picture, holding this white hamster and wanting to heal it with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed I should be able to do that. And I wonder if Jesus, and of course I couldn't, it died, but I wonder if Jesus had that same proclivity to want to do that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think he honored all of life, whether it was an animal, a plant, whatever it might be.
Well, we think he should have.
Right.
But we don't.
That's our thoughts. But how was he, in that stage of his life as a young child? Was he already like showing by example, this is how you treat others, this is how you treat things?
I would think that he already had that within, that he knew how to treat animals, how to be with others. I mean, he might have observed how others did by example, but I think it's more what he knew. It was just a knowing of what to do and how to do it. I would think. Estamos hablando ahorita de cómo era esa vida en ese tiempo en comunidad. Sabemos que en ese tiempo había un rey y que probablemente a lo mejor la comunidad tenía miedo en ocasiones por cosas a lo mejor que eran impuestas. Entonces nos preguntamos si habría una especie de cambio en ese tiempo, si la gente sabía lo que Jesús estaba haciendo, que él era un maestro, o de qué manera fue como empezaron a percatarse de la existencia de Jesús. Y también nos está diciendo Ruth que ella cuando era chica, ella tenía un hámster, que es como un ratoncito, y que por ejemplo ella lo tomaba así en sus manos y ella tenía como ese conocimiento o esa certeza de que ella iba a poder sanar a ese animalito, nada más con tenerlo en las manos y con la intención. Y también nos estamos preguntando cómo es que Jesús era de niño, si él trataba a los demás, incluyendo a los animales, nada más observando a los demás por ejemplo, que veía el ejemplo de los demás, o que si era algo que él ya traía en sí mismo.
Thank you, Lily. I wonder, going back to his childhood, you know how kids are. I think all kids are always wanting that closeness, that peer group. So I wonder if there was a group. Some people call it a clique, you know, where there's certain people that just gravitate to each other. I wonder if there was that happening. And I don't think there were public schools at the time. So they were pretty much just playing outside, learning as they went along. But I wonder if there was a clique as far back as when he was a child, of people that gathered around and were like-minded seekers, is what I would call them.
As kids?
Yeah. Yeah, because it was such a totally different time than what we're in. You know, there was no history books or math books or anything like that. So were they, you know, exploring each other's minds and learning from each other? Or were they just being kids and playing ball and
Homeschooling?
yeah, going fishing?
But they didn't even talk about if he had teachers.
Mm-mm. No, we don't know where he learned what he knew. I mean, we know how, but as a child, learning. And I've often heard that he went to different places. So I mean, there's no record, so we don't know for sure, but there have been thoughts that he was in India, that he was in Egypt. Well, we know he was in Egypt because that's where they went at the very beginning. Mary and Joseph took him there. But they went back to where he was born because that's where all of the teachings as he was an adult happened. But I've heard that he was in other places and learning the ways of other religions, the teachings of Buddhism, the teachings of, whatever was happening in those areas with the yogis and the monks. And I think the monks go back way, way back before Jesus even came to earth.
So where is that information from?
Well, when I was in India, there's a lot of teachings there about Jesus. And one thing that came out was that he was there, and they have writings about his time there in India. So I was just wondering, where else did he go? Did he go to other places besides Egypt and India? Did he go to Asia? Was he in China? I don't know. These are questions I've had for many, many years. Like, I don't think he just stayed there in that local spot for his entire time on earth.
Well, and Mary ended up in Turkey. She was in Ephesus.
Mm-hmm.
And you just think, wow.
Yeah,
I
did
mean,
he
for us
did he
it's
go there?
Yeah, for us it's
Yeah,
as easy as a plane flight, but how did they move that far?
right.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, even when they went from where they were at the very beginning of his life and they went to Egypt, they flew there, or
They
right,
did.
but the word flew, not on an airplane. They left where they were, and how did they even get there without being spotted? Because they were running to save his life.
Camel.
Horses? Do they have horses back then?
I don't know. But camels, we know they had camels.
Camels. That's what I thought about camels.
Yeah, because camels can do the long treks, but
Right,
horses would not be able to.
right. Especially through the desert.
Right.
Yeah, and depending on what time of year it was it cold as they were traveling? Was it wintry? I was in India in the wintertime, and it's not fun. It's very cold.
Mm.
Well, we were in like Hurghada and Egypt in November, and it wasn't well. Sometimes it was hot,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know that it ever got that cold in some of those areas. But I just had a thought. So Jesus was a carpenter. How did he learn that?
Right.
And was he any good? I
Yeah.
mean, they don't describe him as a fabulous carpenter. They just describe him as a
Right.
carpenter. So how good was he? I don't know. And did he have a mentor who was a carpenter who taught him that trade?
And what did he build
Right.
as a carpenter? Or was that more just a metaphor?
I don't know.
What I was thinking like yesterday, it was about father figure, because of Father's Day just passed.
Mhm.
And I read this, and I don't know, the accuracy of this, but one thing is that Jesus called God Father, and then he had Joseph, Jose as a father. But I read that Jose there is not a lot of Jose, a lot of information about Jose after, let me see, it's yeah, at what point in Jesus' life Joseph seemed to disappear, and why this might have suggest. So it seems, I don't know if it was like Jesus' childhood, Joseph was present, and then after that there is not a lot of information about Joseph, and why did that happen? That was one of my questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that was there a reason? Some people say that he was killed, that he died, or so I don't know. And it just came to me because of Father's Day. I was thinking about that. Okay, he had Father the God, a very close relationship, and then he had Joseph as a father, and it's almost like if Joseph had that very very quiet presence, almost like invisible, you know. Um, so how can Joseph inspire people who serve quietly without seeking recognition? Because he was kind of more on the side. But those were my questions about about Joseph.
I love that. And I've wondered that myself, Lily, because there's a record of Mary being at the crucifixion, but no mention of Joseph.
Or the family.
Right, his
Yeah.
brothers, siblings. So
Mhm.
what happened to him? And at what point was he out of the picture?
It
Right.
seems that at least in the recordings or for the writings, in the New Testament, what is it called? I was reading, it's called Gospels,
Mm-hmm.
Gospels record. I read that's what it's called, and it started. He started disappearing after the beginning of the New Testament writings. So yes, I don't know why.
But
I
that's when
wonder.
Jesus was 30, right?
Oh.
Well, we know that he was there when they fled to Egypt.
Yeah, but that was when
But
Jesus
that
was a
was when he
baby.
was first born.
Right.
There's really nothing about him in any of the writings. We know
Mhm.
about Mary, and there's instances where they would talk about, he was off in the temple or something, and she was saying that he should come home. So obviously there was a home. So does that mean that his dad, Joseph, was there? I don't know.
Mhm.
It is a very interesting thought, Lily. I'm glad you brought it up because I've had that thought as well many times. Like, why wasn't Joseph more in the picture?
Mhm. Like it's very is brought to our attention the relationship that he had with his father God,
Mm-hmm.
but there is not much about the human father.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
it almost feels like, you know there is more relevance given to the that spiritual connection than to the human connection, human experience
Mm-hmm.
with his father. uh,
Yeah. And I wonder if that's why this topic hasn't been really explored that much, the human part of Jesus, because everything's been the focus on Jesus, the spiritual Jesus.
mhm.
And there was like so much more of him being here. Yeah, that's so interesting. Who did he look up to? Who were his role models, right?
Mhm.
And at what point was he separated from Mary and Joseph and went off on his own?
Mm. And there is something about dreams that I also read about Joseph. Like there is, um, it seems that there was an angel that appeared to Joseph in his dreams, guiding him to marry Mary, and to flee to Egypt, and then later to return.
Yeah,
So, and then it says that Joseph is mentioned during Jesus' childhood, including when Jesus was 12 years old in the temple. After that, there is no longer mention in the gospel accounts. And it says many scholars believe he may have died before Jesus began his public ministry.
Mm.
Through the Bible, does not explicitly say so.
right. I remember the story of the angel coming to Joseph, and that had to be so interesting to, as far as we know, they didn't have sexual relationships, and yet she was pregnant. And so I think that was the purpose of the angel coming and talking to him at that time, to let him know that this was the Immaculate Conception, as it's called, and that, it was all part of the divine plan. But I think being Joseph, that would be like so weird, wouldn't it? To say,
Jeez, yeah.
yeah, she's going to have a baby? What? You know?
Right? I'm gonna say that in Spanish. Estamos hablando ahorita por ejemplo, ahora que pasó el Día del Padre. Entonces Jesús tenía una relación con lo que se le llama Dios y tenía relación con su padre, que era José. Y como sabemos, no hay mucha información escrita acerca de José, como que es como si cuando Jesús empezó a aparecer más en público y hacer sus enseñanzas, es como si José ya no estaba en su vida. Hay quienes dicen que murió cuando Jesús era adulto, pero no se sabe en realidad el por qué no hay mucha información de José. Entonces, sabemos que tenía esa relación espiritual con Dios, pero no hay mucha información acerca de su relación con su padre humano, que era José.
Thank you, Lily. Going back to our thought about sitting around the table, I wonder if, as a family, they had friends over for dinner or for meals, and how that went with Jesus as a child and other people just sitting and talking with this family and with him and the other children, because it's noted that he did have siblings. So what would that conversation be like? Would they just be a normal conversation? Would they want to know more about him? And
Maybe they didn't talk about it.
right.
Maybe because I don't know, do you tell everybody? Oh, this is my son. He's actually God's son. And I mean, do you do that?
Yeah, and how widely known was it that they had fled because, I mean, it was known that the king had ordered for the boys to be killed, the infant boys.
I don't don't think you go telling that information if it puts you in danger.
Right. But were they curious why he lived and some of the other children didn't? I don't know. There's just so many questions, so much to think about during that time. And they didn't have newspapers. It was all word of mouth.
Well, they must have traveled to where it was okay to have a boy, because he couldn't have been the only boy in that area. I mean, they would have found him right away.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder at what point they did come back from Egypt. Because we don't know. There's really not a record of any of that as far as the timeline.
Hmm.
Yeah, how did they know it was safe to come back? I don't know any of the history of the king that put that word out, the hit on the
Right.
boys at the time.
It was King Herod, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, was he still around at the time that Jesus would have been a young boy playing outside, and he had to have felt, the family had to have felt safe enough to let him
Right.
come out and play.
I found something here that says that the Gospels show that Jesus spent time in people's homes and also appears to have had close friends whose homes he visited. While the Bible doesn't explicitly describe Jesus having friends over to his own home, it does show him sharing meals and staying with friends.
Sleepovers.
And then it says here, Mary of Bethany, Martha of Bethany. Anyway, the Gospel of John says Jesus loved this family and he often visited their home. Mary of Bethany. And then Simon Peter, Jesus stayed in Peter's house in Capernaum, where he healed Peter's mother-in-law.
Yeah, I remember that story. Was
And then
Martha
what is that?
related? I wonder if Martha was related. She's mentioned a lot, actually, in the scriptures. So I wonder if she was a relative.
Mm-hmm. And then also Zacchaeus invited Jesus to stay at his house after their encounter. And Jesus frequently ate meals with his disciples, as we know, Pharisees and others who invited him into their homes.
You know, I thought about something, Ruth, when we were sitting around the table talking last night, and it came up that in a family, there's different experiences.
Right.
When we were talking about you and your sister, and you know, you can be in the same family unit but have a totally different experience. So I wonder how Jesus's siblings, what their experience was in the family. If they remember him as the weird kid, or if they were close, you know, if they had talks at night in bed, you know, if he was sharing things with them. I don't remember any of the disciples being part of his family, the siblings.
I don't either.
I don't think they were.
I don't believe they were. No, because that would have been a big deal. Well, and how early on did he start having different understandings of things
Mhm.
than the mere mortals.
Right.
I mean, maybe they didn't start that right away.
Well, do you remember in Egypt, in that church that was built over where they had fled and were living, they said that there were miracles that started happening even at that time when he would have been an infant.
An infant, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. As a child, did he turn water into wine? Did he do some of the things that we know about that he did later in life? Did he bring something back to life like a hamster
Right.
or a bird? Or, you know, it's just so intriguing to take a peek into that part of his life. What did he do during all that time that he was here?
Well, and as a mother and a father, was he treated differently?
Mm,
Do you parent differently?
right? Yeah, if you have that inner knowledge that this child is special in that way, do you treat them differently?
Right,
Do you say, don't do that? You know?
sir.
Yeah. Or do you just enjoy them and being in their presence?
Well, they were told he's going to save the world.
Mhm.
But as a parent, I can't even fathom how huge that responsibility would feel.
Yeah. And did they have that kind of discussion with him?
Right.
You better behave because you're going to save the world. You know? Yeah, it's an interesting peek, definitely, at the childhood and how he would have been as a child. Would he be carefree? Would he be able to just experience life as that child?
I don't know.
And what other influences were there? You know, did he gravitate to some of the teachers of the time, the philosophers and the ones that were trying to figure things out? Did he go sit with them? Because I think that he did. That's what I'm getting, that he was around adults a lot more so. I mean, I think he was a child and did the playtime, but I think he wanted to go be with the ones that had that higher connection with their higher self. You know, for speaking for myself, you know, when I was trying to have more of an understanding about God, who God was, and life's purpose and all of that, I wanted to be around people that were also doing that, were exploring and, you know, talking about spiritual matters more so than just the everyday mundane things. So I can envision him going and sitting on the steps while these men were talking about, you know, different things spiritually. Maybe he chimed in. I don't know. What do you all think?
Well, I just wonder what role the angels played in his learnings. Because I know for me, at times when I've sought a human teacher on some of the matters about the angels said, there's no better teachers than us.
Mhm. Right.
So I wonder how much the angels taught him.
Yeah. And protected him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the teaching. And we know that Gabriel was very present. He's the one that told Mary, look, this is the way it's going to be. This is what's happening. So yeah, I think she, angel took Jesus under their wing and said, here, we're gonna put you in this place. We're gonna help you meet up with these people. I think they played a huge part. Such an interesting discussion, an interesting look at what would it have been like, just to be there at that time. I really wish that we had more recordings of his time on Earth. We know so little about him. But I think we got a lot of glimpses into his personality. He wasn't shy from what we can see. He spoke his mind. He said, what he thought, and especially when there were injustices and things that were being done that he's like, that's not right. And we know about him getting angry, about him showing compassion and empathy. I just want to know more. That was how this all came to be. It's like, I want to know more about his time that he spent here. I think it's important to think about it, because when we're going through something, it's good to know that the person that we look up to as Christ knows what we're feeling and really understands when we get angry, when we get sad, when we've experienced a loss, and that hard time that we go through with grief. He experienced grief. So yeah, I think this is a very interesting and very important thing that we are doing. It's taking that peek into his life and understanding more, or at least trying to understand more, asking the questions and seeing what comes from it.
So I am reading here that Jesus grew up, as we know, in a small village in Nazareth, so where children would likely have known one another. So it was a small community, and I guess as everybody knew each other, I guess.
Mhm.
And he was part of a family. He was part of a family in a local community. He attended synagogue and learned, well, this is something that they are saying, that he learned the trade of carpentry from Joseph. And at age 12, when his family traveled to Jerusalem for Passover, Mary and Joseph assumed he was traveling with the company of relatives and acquaintances. And that is mentioned in Luke 2:44. So this suggests he was trusted within a larger community of family and familiar people. And then as an adult, his closest friends included the disciples, of course, but there were others too, like Mary, Martha, and Lazarus welcomed him into their home. And John the Apostle is often described as the disciple whom Jesus loved. showing a close and personal relationship. Jesus also spent time with people whom society rejected, demonstrating that friendship in God's kingdom is based on love, not status.
Right. Yeah, I remember there was some story about him wanting John the Baptist to baptize him, and John's like, "You should be baptizing not me." It was like that acknowledgement of who he was. So I think probably him and John were very close and had close spiritual discussions, because that was the idea that I got from that interaction of John baptizing Jesus.
Estamos hablando ahorita de las relaciones que Jesús pudo haber tenido de niño y de adulto. Y de niño, pues como él vivía en un como comunidad, en un pueblo muy pequeño, entonces entre ellos todos se conocían y así es como él hizo sus amistades. Pero también hay escritos de que la familia y los, ¿cómo se les llaman? Los familiares cercanos también lo cuidaban a él o eran relaciones cercanas para él. Y estamos hablando también que de Jesús de adulto, sus relaciones más cercanas fueron con sus discípulos, pero también, por ejemplo, con Juan el Bautista tuvo una relación muy, muy cercana.
Thank you, Lily. And again, the hour went very fast, as it always does when we have these kind of discussions. But we would love to know from you that are tuning in and watching, what are your questions? What do you want to know about that time that we really know nothing about, that Jesus was alive here on earth? And I think this was a very interesting one to look at community and relationships and, what he spent his time doing as a child before we knew about his mission that he went on, and gathering people to really try to help them understand God and understand what it meant to be a spirit being in a human body. So we'd love to know your questions, and just put them in the comments as you watch it. Even after we're off the air, you can still comment on the video, and just let us know, what do you want to talk about. And we decided a few weeks ago that we would give like some way for you to carry this into the week. So as you go through this coming week, I think paying attention to your relationships, paying attention to your community, and how you interact with others. And do you have deeper discussions? Is it all just about the weather or politics or the things of the world? Or is there someone that you can sit and have that closer walk with and explore things spiritually and emotionally? So I think that would be a good way to honor Jesus and honor this discussion about spirituality, is how do you interact with others? What are your conversations like? And do you reach out? Like, I wonder if Jesus reached out to some of the people that he knew in childhood to just be with them, to just spend time with them. And it's important that we do that. We're not meant to be living in a cave and be hermits. I think we all have that desire to be around others, and especially to be around others that are like-minded. So just asking for Lily, Ruth, your input on how we can carry this forward. not just sit and have a discussion, but how do we apply it in our life?
Well, I encourage all of us to get a little bit out of our comfort zone and find ways to connect with others. And like Teri mentioned, to look for that deeper connection with others. And sometimes those connections happen beyond words. They happen with the heart. So for some people, it's easier to feel that energy, let's say, that you feel from another person. From others are just developing that connection. But it doesn't really matter where your level is of, if you feel the energy of others, or just connect with your heart, and you will be able to feel that energy from others, as we call it, energy. And try to seek, with curiosity, what the other person's life is going, what is happening in the other person's life. Like, connect with, if you can, with compassion, with empathy, with curiosity. Like, we ask very often, how are you doing? And it's very easy to say, oh, I'm fine. And we just leave it there. Let's seek deeper and really try to be vulnerable, to really connect even with the with the emotions of the other person. Sometimes that's the way we can connect deeper, when we connect to that part that is emotional, and that sometimes, because it's uncomfortable, we don't want to go there. But let's see what happens. See what happens if you connect with somebody in that emotional level. I know it's not easy, because the other person might not open up, but there are ways to develop that trust and be able to connect with that person in that emotional level, if possible. So I encourage everybody to try to do something that you have not done before in that connections with others. It could be family members, or it could be friends, or it could be relatives.
Well said, Lily. I think it can also be with somebody you don't know. I mean, from what it sounded like, Jesus didn't hold himself above other people, that he connected with folks that didn't have a lot of status in society. And so for me, I think it's just an awareness of, oh, okay, so that person is sitting on the corner asking for food or money, and typically I might just look away, but what would Jesus have done? I don't think Jesus would have just looked away. He didn't necessarily give them money or food, or maybe he did, but I think he probably just acknowledged them as a human rather than just ignoring them. So just an awareness of that, I think.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Ruth. And I think that's a question we can all ask when we come upon a situation that we're not sure what to do. What would Jesus do? How would he have handled coming upon a homeless person? Like you said, so many people just turn their head, just pretend that it's not happening. But I fully believe that he saw all of us equally, and he saw himself on that equal plane with us. So, beautiful discussion today, ladies. Thank you so much. And again, for anyone listening, if you have questions, if you have comments, if there's something you would like to discuss, put it in there, and we will see those, and we will respond. And each week it's something different. It's just a beautiful way to honor Jesus, I think, to say, what would Jesus do and what did he do? How was he like living on the earth? So we'll be back next week, next Saturday, with another Walking with Jesus. And we hope that you'll tune in and tell others about it. Thank you, Ruth. And thank you, Lily. What a beautiful discussion today.
Gracias a todos por haber estado aquí y les motivamos a que en esta próxima semana traten de buscar esas conexiones con otras personas. Puede ser en tu familia, tus amistades, o puede ser gente que no conozcas. Puede ser una persona de la calle, una persona que no tiene hogar. Trata de hacer algo diferente y si puedes que esté fuera de tu área de confort y conectar con alguien de una manera más profunda. Y si eso implica conectarte con las emociones de esa persona, hazlo, adelante. A veces eso es lo que nos conecta con alguien más, cuando no estamos en nuestra mente y estamos más en nuestro corazón. Y nos conectamos de corazón a corazón. Nos vemos la próxima semana.
Thank you so much. We will see you all next week. Have a wonderful
Bye-bye.
week. Pay attention. Be consciously aware of your interactions with others this week. We love you. Bye for now.
Bye all.